And we are back. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm sorry that you had to re-click. We just had one of those things we have to do a couple of times throughout this long 2-day virtual con, Geek Out Virtual Con. Welcome back, Christian. Welcome back, Meredith. And Meredith, I'm going to let you take this one because my back teeth are floating, and so I will leave this one to you for now. Are you there, Meredith?
All righty, that might have been a little bit too much information for me. Not really. I don't care. I don't. We're at Kevin Guillot. We've got Garrett over here, and
you put the boss in now.
Where is Rob?
I'm here. I got
Rob,
you.
Where are you? Come on in.
Hello.
There we are. All right, we've got the gang here. I apologize because our previous panel, we ran a little bit late and we kind of cut you off short, but we're segueing perfectly into what we wanted to talk about. And then when we start getting some of our podcasters in, then, we're going to segue into that. But I think it all kind of ties in because we're all doing virtual con. Next week is CyberCon. I want you guys to kind of talk about hanging with web. I want you to talk about CyberCon, the NSC Live TV, and all that good stuff. And go ahead. I know Christian and Rob kind of knows you guys, so just shut me up. Get me out of here.
Matthew left his camera on. He just walked away, and I just saw his shorts, so I can't unsee now. It's a scary sight. Somebody block his camera and they come back.
Well, at least he's not live mic'd up in the bathroom.
I almost had it in my screen. Wow.
Well, like Leslie Nielsen and
yes,
the Naked Gun.
Who does number
Kevin.
2 work for?
Kevin, since we never got to talk to you in the last hour, do you want to start off and explain NSC? What's going on, guys?
Yeah, I can go into that real quick, and then we can jump into CyberCon. NSC TV is something that kind of was born, I guess, about almost 2 years ago now, and it was one of those 2 a.m. kind of ideas, where when I was out there searching for lives and content and basically hunting for comics, it was hard to find anything. So it was combing through a lot of weeds to try to find something. So long story short, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was having the same problem. So decided to build a better mousetrap, so to speak. And we started off with 5 channels about 2 years ago. Now we just crested over 100. We're hitting 118 channels, fastly heading towards 150. And it's a way for, even before the zombie apocalypse hit, it was a way for vendors to be able to sell their goods after hours or weekends or between shows. We actually have one vendor that actually shuts his shop down at 11 o'clock and sells from 11 to 2 online through our channels and does great at it. It was just another avenue to get us all together. We've grown into interviews. We've grown into news now. We like hooking up with you guys, over at Geeked Insider and again, hanging with Web. It's just a way to really gather everybody together under one umbrella and to be able to share our goods and share ideas. It's a way to bring community together.
Speaking of bringing a community together, Garrett does a great job of that with every con. Explain what's going on next weekend. Huge news.
Oh, wow. Well, excuse me. Let me get this out of my way here because that's annoying. All right. Well, next weekend from April 17th through April 19th is CyberCon. Not unlike the virtual con experience, really. The idea, again, just like virtual con and so many others right now, I want to shout out to everyone out there who is working to keep everyone entertained and informed while they're at home. But CyberCon was born of the idea that, hey, next weekend was supposed to be MegaCon here in Orlando, Florida. And so there's a huge community right here in Central Florida and South Florida who didn't have anything to do. And so like as happens from time to time, some of our friends and our convention family called up and said, hey, why don't we all do something? So my ears hear things a little bit funny. So when they said we all, my natural assumption is that they meant all 5 billion of us on the planet. So I thought, yeah, why don't we? all do something. And so we decided that what we would do is, I grew up in an era when it wasn't uncommon, especially in times of need or for different kinds of needs. I grew up in that broadcast era of telethons, and I thought, well, what if we were to do a 56 plus hour live broadcast using the social media technology that's available today, to really share everything that we love, our artists, our music, our different panelists, and everything. What if we put that all in one big huge live broadcast? And during the time that we were doing that, what if we asked for donations for a good cause? And so we reached out to a bunch of different charities and things like that. And the one that we found that we really liked what they were doing was the Center for Disaster Philanthropy. They have a COVID-19 response fund. They have currently spent $1.5 billion helping to supply ventilators, masks, PPE, et cetera, to the medical community, and providing relief as they're building up temporary hospitals, et cetera, around the country. So we chose them, and we're going to be pushing charitable donations to them all weekend long next weekend. We're going to be bringing live entertainment, and our show is really the Hanging with Web show was formed as a way to share the creative arts, whether you're a comic artist, an author, a filmmaker, a musician, to share your work with the web audience. And so what we wanted to do for CyberCon was bring you sort of an extended version of that. So it'll be 56 hours of live entertainment. We have Phantasmagoria from Orlando. Actually, they're performers from all over the country who have gone out to their backyards or in their garages, done their acts, recorded them, and put them together. And the Phantasmagoria leader out of Orlando will be hosting and ringmastering from his living room, and showing you all of the acts that you would get if you were live at a convention or at a show. Similarly, we've got live musicians who are going to perform. Friday night, we're going to kick the music off with our own Friday night annual tradition, which is the Kitchen Killer Show at 9:05. They will kick it off. Josh Bauer is going to live paint. Earlier in that day, when we kick off CyberCon, we're going to have our first panel discussion in the live broadcast will be with New York Times bestselling author Jim Butcher. We'll be on talking about writing and books and fantasy and fiction. He's going to do some great things. We've got a voice actor panel. We've got voice actors from some great properties. We've got Carrie Means from Frylock from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. We've got Austin Tyndall from My Hero Academia. And we also have the one and only Marty Grabstein from Courage the Cowardly Dog. And they're going to sit down and talk about voice acting and their experiences, their fan interactions, their convention interactions, and how they're doing right now. Because, just like everybody else, they're not doing a whole lot either. So, so we just decided we would line that all up. We packed it into about 56 hours, and we still had more left. We had more entertainers and more podcasters and more people that wanted to get in and talk to the fans. So we decided that we would set up page panels on our page. And so we've got some great page panels coming up, including, let's see, 1, 2, I can't see you all anymore. I don't know where you are. I don't know where Rob was over there. There's Rob. And then there, oh God, there's Christian. Oh my gosh. And then, okay, look, this is great. So all of you gentlemen will be hosting page panels and talking to people as they come. And what we decided was we turn a Facebook page into a brick and mortar convention center. And that Facebook page will be loaded with things to do. So if you go there, you can go over to Ballroom B and check out a page panel and somebody who's talking about your favorite property or art or vending. Or you can go to Hall H and you can be a part of that live 56-hour stream and check out some of that entertainment. Or we have a virtual vendors floor, which means that down the page all day long will be virtual auctions from comic book shops to individual creators. And you can, just like when you go to a convention, when you go into the vendors hall, you can walk out with your favorite pop or your favorite comic or whatever. Some of our panelists have agreed to stay around and do virtual vending from the page. So some of them, you can actually get their signed autograph stuff. You can have them send it to you. They've agreed to do that for us. So it is just like going to a convention hall, only you can do it all in your underwear. Which I know at least Christian and Rob that's their kind of con. If they can stay with no pants all day long.
It's the no pants cats con.
What makes you think I'm wearing pants at a regular con? I'm always sitting, so I get away.
That's true. He's always behind the table, so I never really get to know unless we're doing a panel together. So
we can't talk about podcasting though without talking about Christian and all he has done. Do you want to take us through everything that you've done with the traveling TARDIS?
What have I done?
Well, if you don't know, none of us can.
Oh God, where do we begin? 7 years ago, I bought a TARDIS, took it places all over the world, all over. It was just a little hobby that I started. I took it to places where I quote unquote the doctor hasn't been to. So I took pictures of it, and apparently a lot of people liked it. And off and on, later on, I would actually be going to conventions. My first convention, believe it or not, I don't know if you know the gentleman, for people who are not familiar with the Whovian Geekdom down here in Central Florida, but my very first panel that I was put on was by the late Ken Spivey, who ran Time Lord Fest, and his first convention was in Orlando, Florida, and he had me do a panel called Doctor Who and Vampires. If you know anything about Doctor Who and Vampires, there was only one episode back in the classic Who, and none of it makes sense after that. So I managed to spend an hour doing it, and lo and behold, I got to be asked to other conventions, got to be asked on other podcasts, and just a couple of years ago, Garrett, I was on the last podcast I was on was Ian Shaw's podcast, was Gallifrey Stands, and we had a nice little dynamic. He was the UK brother, I was the US brother, so we had two different continent dynamics about reviews and stuff like that. And unfortunately, because of the time frame, Ian and I both parted ways, and I was podcastless. And then lo and behold, Garrett just calls me up and goes, "I think it's time for you to do it." I'm like, "Do what?" He goes, "Run your own show." And I go, "I don't want to run my own show. I don't think I have, I am not bound for it." He goes, "You make sure that you have an episode every week. I will make sure it goes out." And that's how we, I guess, for a better term, started the Hanging with Web Show radio media family. I think that's kind of where it started, with the indie music. And it just, now you've got a monster in your house. As far as the media family, but now we're on our 70th episode.
As Matthew likes to tell me.
Oh.
Well, I was going to say, as Matthew has told me several times, you've been voluntold.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for Garrett, I would not be in this position right now. But we've amassed in that little blue box, which is now sitting in Melanie's house right now for the last month because it's under quarantine, and she took it to the UK. So I've been telling her, "Bring that back, my son." I don't know if you were here earlier, Garrett, but she actually has the box at home. We actually did a little traveling TARDIS panel this morning. But yeah, it's just been an adventure, and we've just been put on hold. But right now we're on standby for 7 different conventions this year, including Super and Mega. But it's just been an interesting ride, and just meeting people. The love of it, people who want to come out and geek out with you. And you were talking about earlier, Rob, that, fans that come out after the panels, we would have people coming in to our booth to talk to us an hour before, and would spend hours. I mean, would literally spend hours. It's just somebody who wanted to geek out at my booth. That's all they wanted to do, was talk Doctor Who. That was their entertainment. That was their convention that day. And as long as they want to keep hearing us, we'll keep producing the content. And that's where we are right now. And now the traveling TARDIS itself used to be something that I took to the conventions and would ask people to take pictures with it. Now I go to a booth and everybody's asking me, "Where's the TARDIS? I want my picture with it." That's how the dynamic of this thing changed.
You're going to have to take a picture of it and send it to the show. That way we can actually hold it up during CyberCon. And it made its way to CyberCon.
You could probably just go on.
Christian, you got a page panel every day during CyberCon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
correct?
we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah, so the traveling TARDIS, and I know that wherever that TARDIS is out in the world, it'll be somewhere on camera. Oh, there we go.
As long as Melanie is somewhere around, it'll be on camera somewhere. I think that's the case there. But yeah, that's where we are right now, and it's just we have a love for the show, and I know right now the geekdom world's a little bit in
wow, that's a great question.
weird place right now. Oh,
Sorry,
we have a question.
in the chat out there. Brian Morris wants to know if virtual cons and cyber cons will become a thing once Corona is over. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They would continue because they've been here beforehand. I've said this many times.
It is. This isn't a new concept. I
Yeah.
think everybody being home and having time and energy to think has given it new wings, and we have the ability to do new things.
I don't think they're new. I just think more people are doing what's already been done. It's like all these virtual cons. You go to my website, Indie Advocates is called the Global Digital Comic Con. It's been called that for 4 years. So you have Indie Vault, who's been doing the most educated panel for 2 years now. These are not new ideas. It's new people doing these ideas.
Well, I think there's new people, but there's also a new entertainment aspect to it. Right now, and I know we do this all the time. Rob and I and Christian and Kevin, we do this all the time where we get together and we talk about the things that we think are really cool. And a lot of times it's perspective from us, for us, or for other people like us, for other podcasters, for comic creators, for other artists and things like that. But there hasn't been a hunger from the audience, those people walking those aisles at Comic Cons, the people who sit in theaters and sit in panel rooms. They haven't been interested. So we do it and we talk about the things that we're passionate about to other people who are also passionate about it, not to the actual fans or to the audience. Because the audience is now trapped at home, they can't find other entertainment. They actually are going to be the ones tuning in. And so programming will end up shifting so that the programming shifts toward the audience, which is what we all do when we go to a convention anyway. We take whatever we're promoting and we shift it toward promoting it to that audience. We don't get to do that online because, well, they're not interested. They go and they watch NBC and ABC and CBS, and then when they run out of stuff to watch, they go to the theater, then they go to the movies, then they go to the ballet, then they go to a convention, then they go everywhere else. They can't go anywhere now. So what we're finding, and the numbers bear it out over and over again, the internet breaks every time we do one of these live broadcasts because everybody's doing it and there's so much content. People are watching what's on Facebook. They're watching what's on YouTube. They're watching what's on Twitch. They're spending more time streaming more content in the last month than they have in the last 2 years. And so now as our shows go out there, we're gonna hit a whole new audience, and our programming is going to shift toward them again, which is where we started in the first place. All of us started out trying to entertain our audience, and we ended up without one, so we had to entertain each other. Now the audience is back. The question for all of you, and the question I guess for the internet is, can we shift gears again? Can we go back to what we started out doing?
I think one thing that's opened up is something that Rob has hit on early on, which is the independent vibe. And I think this is really kind of tapped into that independent vibe where now creators can go direct to consumer and not have to go through other avenues. I think there's a lot of that kind of stuff brewing right now. I think it's very positive. I think it's something that some of the people, like I said, as Rob and Meredith and Matt had kicked into, Gary, you've tied into it from the musical aspect, the entertainment aspect of it, of creators. Now I think it's kind of a melding of the entertainment side of it with that and the comic creative side all together, all coming out at once together, which is amazing.
Well, I think only indie creators are still creating. All the other publishers have stopped creating.
Correct.
All their content has paused, and we didn't stop. And to Garrett's credit, he's promoted many indie comic book creators with his show. And
I think the thing is I think what you hit on, Rob, is they can't do it. They have to go to an office somewhere to do it. They have to go. They have these huge infrastructure problems that are now off limits to them.
Well, that's what I was alluding to.
The indie creator still sitting in his living room, still got his easel, still got his pencil, still got his webcam. The indie creator still has all of his infrastructure, which means that we're not out of business. When everybody else is like, hey, I can't go to my studio today. They closed down Fifth Avenue. Guess what? They didn't close down Foxwood Drive. So
also money. You got these major companies that need comic book stores open. We don't, because we're not used to comic book stores welcoming you.
There you go.
And so what we're doing is we're going to Kickstarter. You're going to see a lot more creators going to Kickstarter trying to do things. But to Brian's point, and this is, some of you are going to remain. Everyone on this panel is going to remain doing what we do before, during, and after. We're just going to have less time to be on. We have more time. I've been on now 30 straight days. So that's going to stop. As soon as all this calms down, I will go back to 3 shows, and then I sometimes show up for an interview during a week if I have time. The reality of life will come back. A lot of people who are just doing it because they were bored will disappear. So you'll see the people who are good at it continue to be good at it, and the people who are bad at it disappear. So will they continue? Yes. Will it be the same? Absolutely not. People are going to run to MegaCon. My prediction, and I know people disagree, but I think we're going to be open for MegaCon right now if everything keeps trending the way it has been. And I'm excited about that. I want to get to MegaCon. I don't think anyone's not going to show up to MegaCon, and I hope the other creators in my row don't show up so I can use their tables to put more money.
Right, and that's, like you said, Rob, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head. Garrett's been in this business a long time and has been promoting, comic book people as well as entertainers. What I was kind of talking about was everybody is bridging the gap a little more, I think, than they ever have before, and it's given creators, whether it's comic or entertainment, more of a bandwidth, so to speak, and more of a voice out there. And also, too, as far as the stores, from the network side, from what I've been doing, is been able to give them a spot to sell after hours. Now they all kind of came to me and said, hey, look, our doors are shut. And these are a lot of mom and pop local comic shops. They said, we're starving right now. What can we do? And I said, well, come on more. They said, well, what's that going to cost? I said, nothing. We're not changing anything about our structure. We're not upping any kind of rates. We're just saying, if you need to come on 20 times when you came on 10 before, we welcome you. And that's given a lot of them. I'm getting comments all the time thanking us for being able to give them that, because we're helping keep the lights on. And that's a real feel good.
And to continue the answer to his question, actual brick and mortar cons, and the virtual con this weekend was a demonstration right off the bat for them. My email box is exploding. Actual smaller and mid-sized brick and mortar conventions that want to add a virtual convention, a cyber convention, an online element to their show for those that either can't get there or to help them promote, get out of your house and come down 5 blocks away. We've actually, our email boxes has exploded with people interested in, hey, how could we do this live on location? How could we do this at our location? And so, this has actually shown not just what we can do when we're trapped at home, but it's also shown what those creators out there, those content creators, online podcasters and content creators, when you go to get entrance to a show, I know that we fought for this for 2 years with people who have this idea of what they think an online media source is. And it's a broken concept. It's a broken idea. They're picturing some kid at 19 years old coming in and walking around with a camera and shanghaiing celebrities and all that, and then walking out and not doing a story. And so it's hard to fight that. Now they're actually seeing what good content creators can do and what we can do for one another and for their shows. So my ABEX is going off from Fan Expo over at MegaCon, from Dragon Con. How do we incorporate? What can we do? We want to see how this goes for you guys, because we want to see about doing something for us. And so not only is this going to be a new thing, to answer the original question, this is going to be a new thing, and it's going to be around for a long time, well after we're all free to walk the streets again.
I don't know if that's true, only because the past this has been tried before. Things like Kevin's NSC is super awesome, and that's great for fans. But Fan Expo, unless they can monetize that stream, won't put as much energy into it once the doors are open.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing is, though, is that the way to monetize that stream is with ticket sales at the door. And that means, and this happens, again, this has been tried before. More importantly, it's been tried before in a way that they couldn't afford to do it before. It was tried the last time I spent 2 hours in a media room with Fan Expo with the people from Channel 9 and Channel 6 in Orlando. They wanted them to go live as many times as possible in Orlando because they wanted that broadcast audience to get reached. Mm-hmm. The problem is that broadcast time runs about $5,000 a minute. So, for a network broadcast period. The difference is the internet has got just as big an audience now, especially thanks to this quarantine. The internet's got just as big an audience, and it doesn't cost $5,000 a minute. You can find a podcaster that'll do it for free.
And not only that, but I think, for better terms, the strays, the convention strays, the ones who go outside and have their own little conventions in San Diego, at Mega, at Super. the ones who can't afford the tickets, the one who can't afford the headshots, the ones who can't afford the signatures. I like that TARDIS, by the way, Melanie. And the people who, the people who just want to geek out but just don't have the financial means, whether they just don't have the money to do it, or they're living paycheck to paycheck. Here is their out. Here is their way to get in without having to pay to get through the front door. We're giving them the chance, and it's growing the audience that normally would not be able to have admission into the convention. We're giving them.
As I raised four sons, I watched San Diego Comic-Con live, streaming from Nerd HQ for 4 years before I ever set foot in a convention hall when I could afford to go. But I watched the people walking by in the convention hall. I watched the celebrity panels. I watched the special content. People have been doing this. The difference is that who's doing this? This has been an eye-opener for our independent community. Corporations have been doing this. Nerd HQ, which is Zachary Levi, who has all the money to make it work right, has been doing this. The Sci-Fi Channel does this live every year from San Diego.
And from New York.
And from New York. So the difference is who was doing it because of what it cost. Today we found out that social media, in the last month, we found out that social media has the ability to allow us to do it without the Sci-Fi Channel budget. And I think that's going to last a long time. That lesson has been learned. The question is, was it learned by really good content creators, or was it learned by somebody who who just like you said, somebody who was just doing it to kill time, and they're going to go away anyway? Hopefully some of our better content creators learned that lesson, and now they know they can do it.
Well, I do want Melanie to introduce herself because she wasn't here when we were introducing herself, but just also something to think about, Brian. Right now we have unlimited data everywhere. That's going to go away very quickly. Our data caps are coming back as soon as we go back outside. So you're going to see a lot of people more worried about how much data they're spending, especially on the road. So that could also be an issue for some people. But like Garrett said, these cons are definitely going to try to implement this over the next 2 years and make a go at it.
Well, the crazy thing was and I guess it was a bittersweet thing, but it was a nod to us when we started talking about this, that right out of the gate, the gap that we filled, as Garrett mentioned, was MegaCon. Well, people that came knocking on the door and wanted to become a part of this was MegaCon. MegaCon stepped in and wanted to back it. DragonCon stepped in and wanted to back it, which was just kind of like I said, that was kind of a nod that, hey, look, we do recognize that you're doing something worthwhile, and we want to be a part of it, because guess what, guys? A few months from now, they're going to want to be there. They're going to want to open up. They're going to want to have their red carpet kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to basically be kind of, in a way, helping them continue that message, because their icons and their logos are plastered all over this thing, along with a lot of you guys. So their presence is still there, which, it's a
and there she is. Street. There's Miss Melanie Dean. Look at that. Hey.
As I jump in very, very late. Sorry, guys.
It's Hollywood Square.
Looking for
and we could all hand each other things. That would be awesome.
Christian, just grab this. Come on, Christian. Here. Come here. It'll say mailing it. You grab this.
That is rude.
Come on.
If we actually find a way to pass that TARDIS around, we break the internet.
Oh my God! Right here, Garrett, take that.
I think that we look like Hollywood Squares right now, so I'm going to let Melanie introduce herself. We're going to her, and we'll come right back to Hollywood Squares in 1 second.
I will be the Charles Ralph Wilson Riley Center Square for all those who remember exactly what he's watching. I did the old one. So anyway, my name is Melanie Dean. Most in the convention kind of world, I'm a picture and artist alley. There's where I just usually shove my artwork when I'm not actually at a show. I'm a portrait artist. I've done different little indie things. I've done different comic book covers. I've done all different stuff on the indie side, mostly little prints, that kind of fun stuff. But the other thing I do is I'm on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS podcast along with Christian and. Ooh, quick plug. But yeah, so that's my quick little con kind of spiel. In real life, I as of right now, I'm still work full time in marketing for a promotional products company that have done that for better part of 20 years, and that in the graphic side. So I kind of trying to, get that full time job and start working it on into, the dream. But little by little, kind of balance the two. So yeah, that's who I am. Hello, everyone.
And Andrew makes a good point. He said he's never been at such an event. And right now he's being exposed to it with all these virtual cons. So this is actually opening doors to showing, because when you go to a big event, I can tell you 90% of the people going to the big event already know what they're doing. They've circled their panels. They know what celebrities they're going to see. A lot of them never get to walk the entire show floor. And now people are tuning in and really hearing from creators. And suddenly they discovered that it's not just Marvel and DC that make comics. What have you guys noticed that is changing with these virtual cons and these podcasts that we're doing right now? Because all of our viewership's gone up. All of us are getting more views.
Well, that number one, that's it. People are home, so they're watching, which means everybody's getting more views. Number two, Sons of Librarian podcast is in there, and just ask the question: do we think we're moving towards something that is a hybrid, something a little bit of both? The answer to that is simple. History repeats itself, people. This happened to music. This happened to films. This has happened to theater before. We have an answer to that question. That answer is Vegas, baby. Yes, it is. Pretty soon, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a convention that opens up with entertainment that can be streamed, that can be broadcast, with panels that can be streamed and broadcast, with vendor halls and floors that can be walked by people. The answer is you do better if you're doing everything than you do if you're not. And this has proven that, and our numbers show it through the roof, everybody. Guys, your broadcast numbers go up if you're doing podcasts and audio podcasts. YouTube numbers go up. Your live broadcast numbers go way up because, hey, people are actually watching live now. I could do a show on Facebook, and I rarely do Facebook shows, but I could do a show on Facebook to 5 viewers and then get 2,000 views over the next 2 weeks. Now I'm doing it to 125 viewers, and that number is times 5 in the next week. So it's a very different world right now, and that what it's helping to do is shape the next iteration of digital media. And the question will be, for a lot of content creators, especially the mid-size or larger ones, will be, what do you do? What do you do when commercial content providers come knocking? Because that's the next phase. The next phase is when they start knocking on your door. When the internet, when YouTube, when Facebook, before Facebook did video, when YouTube was the king, several YouTube channels found out that, ABC, NBC, CBS, all of these people, Lionsgate Entertainment came knocking with big checks to either go away or let us run it. And a lot of that, we can actually argue goods, bads, and uglies, but a lot of that shifted the dynamic to where it is today. So will we do the same thing again? Will we repeat history again and start taking those big checks, cashing them at the bank, and then letting content slide for another 5 years? Because
I'm willing to sell. Anyone looking to buy, I'm willing to
That's
sell.
right. There you go. So
Well, like you talked about viewership going up. To give you kind of an example, a real life example of what's happened, one of our shows is out of Denver, Colorado, and he does vintage toys. So we, of course, do toys and comics. So his normal viewership vibe has been about 50 people. And that's on a regular scheduled show. And that's hard to kind of juggle 50 people when you're kind of a one-man band. We all know this. So his viewership now on a pop-up show he's coming on every day now. And we're scheduling stuff together, and he's letting me know what's coming up, and we're getting, viewership for him. His viewership numbers now run around 100 for a pop-up show. The other day, we clocked out at 172 people on a regular Wednesday afternoon, which is unbelievable. I mean, to have numbers like that, he's making just as much sitting at his house selling out of his regular collection room than he would be if he had the doors open and the lights on at the store right now. So that is very possible. And we hope that all, like you said, continues. And I think this opens up a lot of those doors for a lot of these people.
Well, from a marketing perspective, I know that looking at trying to find your audience is typically always kinetic. It's always a matter of finding out where exactly your audience is going to be at the right time, so that you're hitting and marketing to the audience to go ahead and get the attraction to your product and whatever it is, especially in the creative field. Right now, it's no longer kinetic. It's very fixed. People are sitting at home and they're going, and if you look through all your Facebook analytics right now, your reaches are extremely high because people are just sitting there scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. They're going to their devices a lot. There's a lot more downtime. A lot of people are, if you even notice, like the funny part of memes saying, "Oh, people are just gonna, they're eating like crazy." Well, it's because they're no longer working. They got to do something with their hands. So if they're not eating in front of their couch, they're scrolling in front of their couch. And I'm noticing a lot of times that reach that you're noticing if you boost a post or anything like that, your reaches are doubling and tripling in some cases, because the same posts are getting interactivity, and it's kind of clicking along with Facebook's algorithm, because they're thinking, oh, well, you reached this many people, we're going to boost it even more. So unfortunately, on one hand, you can look at it as it's kind of false in one way, but on the other hand, you really are hitting those people multiple times. And now that you're getting your product in front of them at least maybe 2, 3, 4 times, as opposed to once yesterday, where when you actually activated, you're only seeing it like a couple days later. You're able to go ahead and get them to go, okay, well, I'm bored. I have nothing else better to do, and I don't want to be eating. So you're like, oh, well, you know what? Okay, I'll watch that video. People have that disposable time to go, okay, they'll allocate it to watching your brand, your item. And to the point of like the comic the creators, able to sell more things. Now, as long as you can market yourself to go, oh, and at a convention, I can't say, I want to sell my comic. Here's the full thing. You give them the pitch, all that fun stuff. Now, if you wanted to package a 2 or 3 page PDF that you could put onto your mailing sheet, you could do that instantly. And you can go ahead and you get your analytics back faster to see your click rates. So having this fixed audience right there, if you have just a little bit of an idea how to reach them, go for it, because you will see your returns.
Rob talked about this. Rob, you talked about this in your marketing panel yesterday. Yeah. And it's very important, and Melanie touched on it too, and that is the power of the social media algorithms as they normally work. But we also have to understand something else, and that is that Facebook, Google, these are corporate America, and corporate America has this thing that they do in times of need. And in times of need, corporate America wants to be seen, not just doing the right thing, but doing more, going above and beyond. So Netflix, Hulu, these are all companies. They've introduced stream with your friends. They've got sharing things now where you can watch the same movie together in a chat with a video chat, the whole 9 yards. You can do that through, it's called Netflix Watch or something like that. You can share with your friends the same as you do with a Facebook video. Same thing is happening at Hulu. Same thing is happening at Disney Plus. Corporate America wants to be seen doing good things in these times. What that also means for us is that the Facebook algorithms, the YouTube algorithms, the Google algorithms that usually kill us, because they're designed to do so, unless we're paying to go around them, they have cut back on those algorithms very quietly, because they're letting us do our thing so that they can show that the value of social media in this time. At this particular crisis in America has precipitated a product that is social media. The same as 9/11 showed what a cell phone could do, and everybody had one 3 months later. This particular crisis has showed what social media can do, and that's what they're banking on. So we're getting away with a lot of things that in 6 months from now, those algorithms will be back on us, and they'll be shutting us down the same as they do now in exchange for $25, $30, $50 to get the extended reach. But for right now, we have an opportunity. It's an opportunity that disappeared about 5 years ago. Before the algorithms came along, social media stars were created. The algorithms came along, and we were stuck with what we had because you couldn't create any new ones. Right now is your time. If you want to shine, now's the time to do it. Create your social media star on that Walk of Fame right now, because in 2 months, your ability to do so will be limited again.
And I will touch on it with the comic books. I know a lot of comic book creators that are indie that aren't selling their books right now. Outside of Kickstarter, they're not pushing it. And it's this collaborative reasoning that we have behind it that right now we're trying to entertain people. I see a lot of indie creators giving out their books for free. Now, some people might be like, why would you give out your content for free? Like Garrett said, we're auditioning for fandoms right now. We're auditioning to show people that we are creators first and foremost, and money doesn't matter as much as entertaining you. That will go a long way come when someone sees you at a show. Because this is a pause. This is only a pause. Humanity's going past this. We're going to have a great restart soon. And when we have that restart, cons will be back. But when they go down an alley and they see me, they're going to remember that every night at 8 o'clock at night, I went live and just reminded them that they're not alone. I reminded them that there's still someone that they can talk to. And then they're going to want to buy my book just because I was there with them. And they're going to be willing to take a journey with me. So if you're doing this, you better be damn genuine. Don't do this if you're not willing to put yourself out there, be honest, and show humility. Show the fact that you're a human being going through this with other people, and you will get a return. That will come back to you when this all ends.
That's a great point, Rob, because I've been tuning into your You're Not Alone shows, and I love the one the other day when you were with your son and you swung by McDonald's and we're talking about the experience that you had. And, what else are we all having? What's changed out there?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of being really, genuine and human about it and just saying, this is what I'm up against. What are you up against?
I mean, who thought in 2020 we'd go into McDonald's would be a huge deal? Like, you were a kid. Oh my God, I'm at McDonald's. Look, people.
I want to point out that Sylvester Stallone knew years ago that in the future all restaurants would be Taco Bell.
Right, Demolition Man.
So they knew it. They knew it was coming.
And the seashells.
That's right. And the seashells would be very important.
Seashells.
I don't know about McDonald's. I'm talking about
shower.
Wow, here's my front yard. It's beautiful. There's grass out here. I didn't realize. Just getting out of the house has now just been something. I wanted to go to the chats a little bit because we have Mr. JB Josh Bauer of Josh Bauer Arts, and he says I still can't get over 20 viewers on my live painting streams. I don't know what to tell you, Josh.
Well, we're about to help change that.
This will change it, yeah.
Yep.
I stress this to you guys. Don't look at your viewer box as accurate right now.
Yeah.
I have had one viewer or no viewers and talked to 5 people in my stream. I've gone off air and 25 people viewed the initial run.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the internet right now, it's getting beat up.
Yeah.
It was not designed for the workflow that we are putting
Now back to Melanie's point a while ago, because Melanie, you and I share similar backgrounds. I have a marketing background. I'm an artist by trade. And I pay attention to all, even though I'm an artist, I still pay attention to the math, which is, of course, the other side of the brain, and pay attention to all these trends and tracks. And I'm watching all these things because that's what I was trained to do in marketing.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm watching all these things. And we all know, any of us that are in the comic book field, and I jokingly refer to it as the London Bridge, the kind of double hoop that happens when people buy comic books. It hits on Tuesday when the new books come out, it dips down, and guess what? Thursday, everybody gets paid, it pops back up again, right? We have money in our pockets. So everybody knows the London Bridge. Well, that bridge now is flat because people are buying all the time. They're sitting there. They're, like you said, they have nothing to do. They're thumbing through pages. They're trying to find books. They can't go to the local comic shop. They can't go thumb through the boxes. So now they're thumbing through the channels trying to find something to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. People want content. Don't you forget that. People want to be entertained. They want to see art. I'm sure, Melanie, you could do a live stream with your art and gain 10 fans because they're going to fall in love with you as you talk about your process.
No, that's absolutely. I mean, thank you. But that's true. It's a matter of not only thinking about, I am going to give them I'm going to do if I do a live stream, I know I'm going to do it for maybe, half an hour, whatever, because it takes a while for me to paint. And it's just going to be, okay, hey, who wants to hang out and watch me paint for a while? But I can't look at that metric to see who's watching me within this half-hour frame on this night. I'm going for the long run. I know that that's going to be out there. And then when people, the same thing with any other, think of it as YouTube. Think of it as you're not putting it out there right now for the people to see it right now. You're going to go back to see it in a week. Then you're going to do it another week. And then you're going to do another. Because we live in a society where, honestly, we're binging. We're a binge society back before we were on our normal. Now you're just trying to get content out there to the point where you have a lot of it out there. And then once you have somebody to stumble along, maybe, let's say maybe 2 weeks from now. But the thing is, we have to kind of look at it as when it comes to weeks, every day seems like a week. So maybe 9 days from now, if every day I'm doing a live stream, that 9th day hits, somebody jumps in, then they're going to be watching backwards. So it's about having all that content for them whenever they're going to jump in.
It's kind of like compound interest.
Yes.
Right. You put it out there, and several of us have already alluded to it. You might look up there, and like I said, I try not to look at the viewer numbers too, and I tell that to clients as well, because guess what? People are microwave minded, for lack of a better term, right? You don't end the show with the same 25 viewers that you started with, right? People cycle in, they cycle out, they jump around. If we all had 6 shows going on at once, I guarantee you they'd cycle through the shows and they'd cycle back again if we were all live right now doing a show. And at the end of the day, like Garrett had pointed out, you may look and say, okay, well, we had, 100 people watch the show. And a week from now, like you just point out, guess what? We had 2,000 views of that same show. It's a compounding interest kind of factor, and that's what we all have to do. And as I just saw Mark pop up and say, it has to be a labor of love. I think every one of us on this panel right now love what we do. We love being able to help provide.
That's going to be that's going to be what separates those who came and went in this time of crisis and those who stick around. And that is, Rob, you were doing this a long time before you were at home with, for this crisis. Christian's going to do this. Christian does this every Tuesday. By Thursday, I've got content to produce from Melanie and Christian. We do this all the time. Kevin does this every day. My show goes out every single weekday at 11 a.m. without fail for the past 2.5 years. It's not going to stop now. So the difference is going to be, would you do this if there wasn't a crisis? Would you do this if there was no money? Would you do this if there was no chance for you to shine right now? Because if the answer is yes, and you were doing it before, then you're going to be successful at it in the future. And if the answer is no, then just like every other, like a band that they call a one-hit wonder, you come, you do your thing, you go. But that doesn't make the Rolling Stones. What makes the Rolling Stones is that duration. Okay. What makes a comic creator with a 20-year career is the 20-year career, not that one time you got a flash in the pan great superhero. No. That's not what makes them great. You got to ask yourself the question. Josh Bauer is a great example. Josh is going to paint. He's going to sit there. He's going to paint. He's going to do it whether his camera's on or whether his camera's off. He's going to do it whether anybody buys the painting or if he just builds them up. I've seen, months when they just build up around the room. But he's going to do them. Melanie, you're going to paint. You're either going to paint and they're going to pile up in the garage, or you're going to paint and you're going to sell them. But one way or another, you're going to do it. I can't stop Christian from talking about Doctor Who. There's no
way. You can't do that.
No way to stop Christian from talking about Doctor Who.
You are my producer, so you could stop me.
I can't stop, but that's just it. That's the problem. I can stop you from doing it on the air, but I can't stop you from doing it at all. So why shouldn't we use that to take that passion and put it on the air? I can't stop you from doing it. I've stood in rooms with you with 5 people where you'll talk Doctor Who as long as somebody will nod at you. Yeah. And so, Rob, you'll passionately advocate for every comic creator that you've come across, every collaborator that you've worked with, every project that you've got. You're going to do this with or without an audience, with or without a paycheck. So you guys are the ones that are going to have, lasting duration. It's going to be those flash in the pans that come now, make their quick buck and go away. And we're talking about what we're doing next weekend at CyberCon. We're talking about VirtualCon and what they're doing with this weekend. I can name 5 others, all of them flash in the pans, all of them that are coming, and all of them that are trying to make $1, $2, $3, $5 grand in the next month because they can. None of the community members that I know are doing that, and they're all successful. Yeah. But I know 2 of the 5 that I just mentioned, and I won't name them here, but I do know 2 of them have fallen apart because they went for the quick buck, they went so they could show off, and they failed.
Well, I'm gonna push on Mark. Wow, I'm gonna push on Mark's statement that, first of all, you can tell. I mean, if you don't have a passion for this, if you don't have a reason for doing this, there's no point of you doing this in the first place. You should be able, and and Melanie, when we've gone on conventions, I said, it doesn't matter if there are 5 people in the seats or 5,000. We're going to perform the same way. Yep. You came out to see me. You came out to take the time, an hour of your time, to listen to what we've got to say. You're going to get the best of it no matter what. So, and we're going to entertain you the best way no matter what. And we're going to give you different dynamics and opinions no matter what. And a lot of people like it and enjoyable. And Josh, to answer your question there, I wouldn't get so frustrated. I'm not trying to boast it, but I do have episodes that ride in the thousands. I have episodes that ride in the 200s, which seems to be the average that we get. And I have episodes that are in like the 20s. And occasionally what I'll do is, and this is just a recommendation, Josh, I will use that Throwback Thursday if you want to throw back a YouTube video that just wasn't doing too well and say, hey, by the way, here's my Throwback Thursday. So you can recycle the content. I use the Throwback Thursday for that, as for the smaller ones that didn't just get much attention, say, hey, by the way, we had this episode, so that I can get the numbers going. And it seems to help out just to recycle the content. And the more content you put out there, there's somebody who's going like, hey, Josh does paintings. I've never known this. Or here's that one painting that you like. Or what Billy Floyd was saying, do an episode with no pants on, just have the camera right above your waist and say you're painting with no, you can reinvent, try something different, experiment.
I want to point out for the internet, Billy Floyd was in the chat earlier. Billy, if you're here, the fact that Christian is not wearing pants is apparently your fault. and none of us in this panel are thankful. No.
I do want
Especially me, I'm going to swear underneath them.
I want to touch what Christian said, and this is a thing that, and Garrett knows this because before a lot of my panels, I have this speech: don't talk about coronavirus. Don't talk about what's going on right now. Don't make this so it looks stupid. Because if we talk about current situations, when you replay it later, people are going to turn it off. Oh, that's back when they had coronavirus. They didn't know about the cure that we had found a week later. You know, and you don't want to sound that way. So when you're making content right now, unless this is obviously happening because of the coronavirus, there's no way we can't talk about it. But if you're doing an interview, don't mention it. And Josh had asked, well, why do I get more views when I'm interviewing a person? Here's the truth. When you're just talking about yourself, people are always going to be a little wary about that. Well, this is just him promoting himself. When you invite someone to talk with you, you're having a conversation. It's about two different people. And everyone loves to eavesdrop on a conversation. It's just who we are. And we want to be part of it and ask our questions. So while your art's fantastic, Josh, when you're inviting someone to be with you, it'd make it even better. So here's my suggestion. Do a talk and draw. Invite guests on while you're doing your art. Boom, you've now done two things at once. Christy Shin does it all the time with her lunch hour. And unlike everyone's saying, be inventive. I see something that works. I like doing this with my art. Let me combine the two worlds and make it into one.
Actually, if I'm not disagreeing with you, Rob, but the way we handled it, instead of talking about, because you can go on YouTube, pull up that word, and there'll be a zillion things. But we did an episode, Melanie and I and the team, we did an episode. We actually had an actor from Doctor Who, which was Simon Fisher Becker. And we gave three perspectives from how, the C word affects us. One was a perspective from Simon because it affected people in the entertainment field. We were trying to get more information about him on how it was affecting him. One was one of our panelists thought she had it, and she actually told us the psychosis and what her mindset was, thinking that she might have this. And her recommendation, she says at the end of this, you should take it day by day. If you think you have this, just take it on the day by day, because you encompass it in your whole brain, your brain's going to explode. So you just take it one day at a time, get your test done, and be safe out there. So we kind of altered it where we stayed on topic of what we do, Doctor Who, but we manipulated it, and I think that's a bad term, but we use it in a way, for a better term, so that it wasn't being pounded, it wasn't being an anvil, it wasn't, for a better term, Bible thumping. We made it so that it was something relatable to people so they could understand.
I think to his point is the not belaboring, and if I'm misspeaking over you, please correct me. But I think his point is not belaboring it to talking about Corona on every single version.
Exactly, yeah.
We did one that was coronavirus specific, and everyone was kind of talking about their perspectives. But then after that show, we're not talking about that. It's not going to be such a topic. So a year from now, somebody kind of goes through and sees the entire catalog, and they go through that one. They go, oh, I remember that. What the hell? I'll go listen to it. Otherwise, people can then see right there in the keyword going, I don't need to hear about that, and they can keep going. But it's not something where if I'm painting, a Doctor Who figure, if I'm painting a Good Omens one, I'm not going to talk about coronavirus each time, where the people are going to kind of go, oh God, we're still talking about this. Is when she was painting. It was during that time. I'm getting tired. I'm not hearing technique. So. Yeah.
And you think about it this way, Christian, if we were doing our con prep today, as Jax is running in the background, it sounds like a con, right? Kids running.
Yeah, convention.
If we were talking about the coronavirus the whole time we were talking about con prep, well, I'm not going to get a banner until 2021. Click, it would go right off. Right. You can't have that negative energy. And when the minute you talk about coronavirus, there's a negativity. I mean, a lot of people are not going to want to hear about coronavirus once this is over.
There's a stigma to it.
Yeah, they're going to run from right now, they want to hear about it. The minute a cure comes out, I will never listen to anything that mentions coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in people.
There's something I hope they listen to. I hope they listen to it now. I hope they listen to it when they find the cure. I hope they listen to it when they find a vaccine, and we turn this into the next polio that disappears from the earth. I hope they listen always. Guys, right now and every day after this, there's a doctor, a nurse, an EMT, a firefighter, a police officer, an IT guy that's making sure your internet connection works so that you can stream social media. There's a whole bunch of people that that work invisibly every day around us. We go about our lives, we buy our products, we see the checkout clerks, we meet the artists, we stand in line to get autographs from celebrities. There's a whole bunch of people that work in coveralls and behind the scenes. They're invisible to us on a daily basis. During this crisis, they become less invisible. I hope all of you out there that are watching right now, don't let them become invisible again. Don't forget to say thank you, because the only reason that Rob and Kristen and I and Melanie and Kevin and Matt are here on the screen right now is because those guys in those coveralls are working their tails off to make sure that we get to reach you. They're going to be working their tails off next weekend because I'm going to work them. So just make sure that you never forget those guys again, because we've forgotten them over and over again. Those guys get left. They're in the back. So we don't see them. We don't see them take our garbage. We don't see them do all of the stuff that has to get done to make our universe work. We're starting to see them right now because they're important to our survival. When this is over, don't let them become invisible again.
Here's an example of that. I went to the post office, masked up and everything else because I've got people buying books and I need to ship stuff out. And I'm talking with the guy that I've really gotten to know, who's a retired history teacher working at the post office, long beard. And I just kind of asked him how things were going, and he's behind plexiglass now. And you feel like you're at the DMV a little bit. And I'm just talking with him, and he said, it's affected us now because he said one of the guys from the back caught it, and then he gave it to his wife, and he made it, and she didn't. So with those kind of stories just hit you. I mean, when I first started doing this, when Gary and I first started talking about getting all this stuff together, and I didn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. I didn't know of anybody that had it. It happened in my hometown. That's where the first person passed. The hometown I'm in now, I should say, in Colorado. Of course, Washington got sick first, then it hit Colorado. So that being said, a few days into this, 2 of the staff members from our team, their grandmother has it now. A good friend of mine in Indianapolis right now, who's 37 years old, no secondary conditions, no ill, no nothing, had a wisdom tooth taken out. Like it does sometimes, it turned south, it got infected. They urged him to go to the emergency room to deal with it. He did and stayed. Now he's there with 16% lung capacity. Okay, so this stuff starts really, like I said, I didn't have a dog in the fight before. I wanted to do it just to do it, just to be, nice and give people a voice and give people a place to be out there and get their message out. Now it's hitting deep because it hits home, and that's now I really have a dog in the fight, so to speak. So not that I wasn't passionate about it before, my passion is 110% more than it was in the beginning. Now that it's affecting people that I know.
Oh no, I know, absolutely agree. Because like for me, it's like I cosplay, I sew, and all that kind of fun stuff. So I was just when they first said that, hey, if you can make a quick mask to help your, help hospitals and stuff like that. I'm a part of a mask making group that we just kind of make them and donate them. Someone comes and runs and picks them up and donates them to healthcare workers, all that kind of stuff. And I was just doing it leisurely. And even now, like just doing it leisurely. My niece now has it. And she's thankfully she's in self-quarantine. She's not as bad as needing a respirator, but she's home. She's tested positive, all that kind of fun, up in Jersey. And now it's just making me sew a little harder and a little faster.
And I want to stress this real quick. I'm from New York City. I am heartbroken that my hometown is going through this. I have family still there. I have friends. I have friends who are infected. I have family members who are possibly infected. And I have actual friends who are losing people. And it's heartbreaking. And I want you to all hear this. Anyone listening to this thinking we should go out tomorrow and this should all end. New Yorkers are the toughest son of a bitches on this planet. They are staying home. They are all staying home. When New Yorkers know not to go out, you should know that that's a huge deal. New York doesn't stop. It's the city that never sleeps. And right now that city is paused. So anyone who thinks differently, just remember, New Yorkers survived September 11th, and we were back at work the next day. A lot of us were back at work the next day. So if you want to go out and risk people's lives, remember, New Yorkers are staying home, and they're tougher than your areas.
The best way I heard it put was the other day, because I come from a party city. New Orleans was my backyard. So the best way I heard it put the other day, to kind of second that, was when churches shut down and Bourbon Street shut down at the same time, and when heaven and hell agree to stop, from have a pause, we really need to consider what's going on.
Absolutely. Especially to Rob's point, like just New York, 'cause I have a lot of family from the city there. I mean, my mom's from Brooklyn. I have a ton of family in there. And it's just, I've kind of gained that little bit mentality of it's not being rude. New Yorkers aren't being rude. We just don't have the time. I don't have time to do anything because I've got to get done. And I got to, and so if that mentality of a lot of people who are like ingrained to go, okay, well, I got to go here, I got to go here, I got to go here. No, you're going to sit down and sit on your couch. That's insane kind of concept of what do you mean I'm just going to stay home?
And here's another part about this is, and then because when we start putting a face in, when we start seeing Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, now the face was popping up over here. Now it's really affecting, and it's hit our geekdom because Hamish Wilson, if anybody knows Doctor Who at all, he played Jamie McCrimmon for like 2 episodes. He passed because of coronavirus. In fact, I won't say anything because this person hasn't acknowledged it. But one of the guests we are booking right now for our show, who is a big in the new Who, apologized to me. He couldn't get back to me because they just got through COVID-19. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? I'm like, take as much time as you need. I'm not going to front you. He goes, no, I want to be on your show. I'm just like, we booked him, but I'm just like, I'm not. You take as much time if you want to take this into the summer. He goes, no, I want to do this. So it's just like, but when it hits home and it's hitting your geekdom, it's just like, wow, now it's starting to hit the core of, people around here. How many people have passed that we know in the geek world that have gone?
Which kind of shows you, even with this this particular person that wants to come on, they're recovering and they still want to generate content. They still want to get out there and help people. People are still chomping at the bit to keep making stuff to find entertainment, to give that content to people who are stuck at home wanting it. But honestly, I would not think about monetizing. Don't even think about this is your time to make money. Look at the unemployment numbers. People are right now trying to save their money to pay their rent, get their unemployment, hopefully soon, and buy toilet paper if they can find it. Really, if you're going to be generating content, build your brand. That's like for me, build your brand.
This is the time, and Melanie hit it right on the head, guys. Yep. If you're an artist, you're an entertainer, you're a performer, you're a creator of any kind, and you want to generate content right now, number one, as was alluded to in the comments earlier by Mark, do it because you love it. Make it a labor of love. Really, truly, do it because you find what you love right now. You got plenty of time at home. Just sit around and look at your walls and see your paintings and pictures, watch your TV shows, listen to your music. Find out what you love. Do that. And do it no matter what. Because remember, guys, those of us that do this, those of us who are artists and entertainers and content creators, this is our time. If you're sitting out there and you're wondering, when is your turn? This is it. Because when people are home and they've got nothing else to do and depression rates go up and people are scared, they need one thing more than they've ever needed it before. They need a distraction. They need entertainment. They need to read a story about someone who can conquer the odds. They need to see a superhero comic about a superhero or an anti-hero that can come back against things that look actually bleak. They need these stories. They need to hear songs about how love will prevail. Yep. They need to be entertained. They need to be informed. And that's where the artist comes in so important. Speaking of which, we have filmmaker David Vincent Bob in the house. So, hey, David, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you. David's film, his first feature film, was all about overcoming the odds and coming back. We need that right now. If you're an entertainer and you're sitting on your couch wondering when it's your turn, the answer is 2 weeks ago. So let's go. Join forces and get together with these people, because now's our time to shine and to show the worth and the value of the arts in society. Because, so much of the time we hear about the things that we have to do, the things that sustain us. We hear about the things that give life purpose, I should say. There are the things that give us purpose: going to work, doing the grocery shopping, making sure there's toilet paper. I don't know. It's a thing. There are those things that give us purpose. And then there are things that give us meaning. Okay. And today is the day for the things that give us meaning. And that's you. That's all the artists. That's all of these creative artists. You give people meaning. So do your job. Today's the day.
What I feel really good about is before this zombie apocalypse hit, I got a chance to get together with Garrett. I got a chance to get together, with Rob. I got a chance to get together with Matt. We all formed a group within a group to start helping everybody out there in the community and bond together as the four of us have before this hit. We're not on the bandwagon, we're at the front of it. We started the truck and took off, and we're pulling the wagon. So that's another feel good thing. And Christian, to tease you a little bit, one of the things that we gave some of the stuff to the Geek Insider for the giveaways. You can see it, but that's one of the giveaways right there. So we have a little bit of
I'll find Colin again.
You put that up there again?
Well, it's beautiful.
I do want to point this out. Right now, you're seeing two types of creators. All right. You're seeing the types of creators who put their pencils down or complaining about not making money. They're sitting at home doing nothing, and they've always done what they did for money. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get it. Some people do things as a job. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're also seeing the other type of creator who during this time can't help themselves. They have time. They have to create. This is their time to create. And it even means creating content for you guys. We're entertainers. We want to do stories. We're sacrificing our time. Look at Brian K. Morris. Every day he's live at 10 a.m. And he has a fan base that stays and watches his show the entire time and interacts with them. Those are the people who they can't help themselves. This is what they're needed. This is a bat signal to them. And they're running to the forefront, like Kevin's saying. They're not like, whoa, I'm not getting paid. They're not worried about getting paid. Like we've been saying, everyone's been saying on here, it's not about money right now. It's about you guys watching. It's about entertaining you, not making you feel like everything's ending. It's not a zombie apocalypse. It's a pause. That's all it is. We've survived this for the last 400 years. For some reason, the 20s has always been horrible. It always starts with something like this, and we've always gotten past it. But you've always had creators come out of it on the other end, here to entertain you. And, if we could put on a clown outfit and thought it would entertain you, we would do these shows in clown outfits. It is just what we want to do. We're entertainers. And those creators are the people I want you to remember. The ones like Josh who are here, the ones like Garrett and Kevin, all they're doing, Matt, Christian, and Melanie, all these people are taking their time and giving it to you because right now they can't think of anything else but to entertain you and make you feel okay. They could all be Netflix and Hulu, but they're not. They're sacrificing their time to make sure you have something to do because they care about you. Ultimately, they want to entertain you. It's part of their soul. And their soul is saying to them right now, they have to entertain you.
I got to give Josh a little razz because he started an interview show on YouTube, and I was going like, "Hey, boy, get off my yard! I'm not going to paint art on my behalf on my spare time." Which he has yet to invite me, so I'm going to razz Josh a little bit. But if you get a chance, yeah, he just started his interview show. It's pretty cool. Check out Josh Bauer Art on his YouTube channel. If you want to put up a link up there,
Christian with the traveling canvas. So
yeah, exactly, Christian with the traveling canvas. But Josh, you can check it out over there. And I'm liking that a lot of people are experimenting with new content, not just sticking around with one. They're going out there and attempting other stuff like Josh is. When he does his painting, he does his interviews. And his interviews are pretty cool. But get off my lawn, boy. I do the podcast.
Well, you know what?
I love you, Josh. You're truly.
It is, as Christian said, we love it when a creative artist expands what they're working on. Melanie is an amazing artist, but I my shout outs, and I know Christian will speak with me on this. She's also the most organized and talented director that we could ask for, because Melanie directs Christian's show and makes sure that it's in where it needs to be so we can produce it every week. And we love her for that. So we love it when we see our artists branch out and do new things and try new things. That's what art is. Art is paint, is coloring outside the lines on purpose. And that's what it's all about. Josh was in here earlier again, pushing, reminding us about CyberCon. That's what CyberCon was designed to do. It's about entertaining ourselves and others at the same time. It's a way to keep us from being bored. But more importantly than that, it's a way to keep you from being bored. Because you know what? We can all watch the same shows over and over again. I don't know about y'all. I try to watch, due to the nature of all of us, that we travel to conventions and pop culture events and things like that. My to-do watch list for Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and these things is huge. It's long. It's as long as my leg, which, by the way, is not that long. Never mind. Anyway, it is long because I want to stay up on things. So when people walk up to me in the alleys of a Comic-Con and they say, "Hey, did you see this?" I can go, "Yeah, I saw that." Sometimes I don't like it, but yeah, I saw it. But the reality is that I'm caught up. I don't know about anybody else. I'm caught up. There's nothing left for me to go in and that I'm interested in and watch. So if I'm caught up, then that means you're caught up. The audience, you guys are caught up. And if you're caught up, then you've got nothing else to watch. So why not watch VirtualCon? Why not watch CyberCon? Why not see a new artist or a new entertainer or a new performer or a new podcaster and find a new thing to binge so that you're not caught up anymore? Because I've got 800 episodes you can check out. I know that my man Christian's got 70 episodes to check out. I know that the NBA Advocate's got like 4 different things that he's doing. So there's got to be like 763,000 episodes of different things.
We just have panels now. We have over 24 hours of online panels that we have recorded.
24 hours of online panels. Guys, there's a binge right there. Watch this stuff, man.
Yep.
So check us out at all the rest of the day here, obviously right here on VirtualCon. But then next weekend, 17th through 19th, come on over to CyberCon. Let us entertain you. Let us do what we do. We're going to do it anyway. By the way, we're going to do it whether you come or not. Because, we're bored too. So come on out and enjoy it, though. Oh, Josh says it's keeping him sane. Perhaps we haven't worked him hard enough because Sandy is not a word I would use to describe my household right now.
We all were saying a couple years back. I don't know where that. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to ask Mrs. Bauer what drives him insane.
That's an old message. That's coming in from before. No, that can't be right now.
That is an interesting thing, and I do stress this. Guys, have something to focus on. Have something that, like, picture your end game. Learn a new craft. Like, if you end this, and this is a meme going around, if you end this not have learning something, not have doing something, not have completing tasks, then you wasted all your time. And it's never been time. It's been you that's the problem. This is the proving point. If you don't come out of this with something, you are always your worst enemy.
Very well put.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. That's most of my meetings at work. It's gym shorts. Let's face it, everybody is doing that.
Let me ask you a question. Was this no pants thing new? Because I've been doing that for so many of my videos for so long.
I want to know what I'm doing wrong. I got dressed.
Is there a show of pants who doesn't have pants on right now? So should we have a show of hands?
Okay. Why show hands? I can just show you. No, wait. No, wait a minute. I wanted to show you this. No, wait. No. You'll love this.
Pull him back down. Pull him down.
There you go.
I can't.
Since we're showing off shirts, since it's
what do we got? Oh, yes. Love it.
I got a Hawaiian tank top of Chewy, and I've got a big enough stomach that his face looks great.
Oh, my God. He's never looked better. He looks healthier than he has in years.
He's nice and monster-rific.
There you go.
So now, what's the future for you guys? Are you excited to be back out in the world once the gates are open? Are you going to not do a podcast for like a month just because you don't have to? Like, I've done enough time online. We'll do some repeats for a month as life now is continued.
Life's only slowed down a little bit because I end up still going to work. So I'm still driving the hour to work and the hour back.
Is it quicker now without traffic?
It's actually quicker because the cops have expressed that they will not pull anybody over unless you're doing over 30 miles over the speed limit. So work has gotten very quick.
Wow. Public safety announcement. Those are the Colorado cops.
Yeah.
So, for anybody who's in the other 49 states, y'all better check into your local communities.
Well, there was
quiet.
And unfortunately, I wasn't speeding, but I unfortunately got in a wreck about a week ago, a little over, and was just a freak thing. It was a bad traffic area. I was where everything merges together. The only reason the cops showed up, and they expressed this to me profusely, was because it was on a major highway. If I had a wrecked on the on-ramp or off to the side or a side road or a parking lot, I would have been on my own. I was literally, they came in, they swooped in, they didn't ask what record service I wanted to use. They swooped in, got the vehicles taken out of the way. I got into the back of the cop car for the first time. Let me add that in there. For the first time, I got to see the back of a cop car. New experience, which I don't fit in the back of a cop car. I'm 6'2", so I was a giraffe folded up in the back of this cage, and dropped off at a grocery store, which was the only thing open in Pueblo at the time, so I could get my ride home.
I've been in the back of the cop car. No questions about it. I agree with Kevin. They're not comfortable.
They're not. And and he just basically, he was a cab. He's like, well, where can I bring you? I was like,
funny story. They had a Prius, and they looked at me in the Prius and said, put him in the other car. But we're not going to talk about that. So what about the rest of you guys? How is after? Are you going to every restaurant? Because that's what Josh just said, and I'm kind of with him. I really want to dine out, and I like my cooking, but
I think I might do that. Well, first, after CyberCon, I'll sleep for 48 hours.
Yeah, there you go.
Uninterrupted, I'm pretty sure. Because that is, again, the centerpiece. And it's not the only thing. There's so many other things going on at CyberCon. We've got page panels with virtual vendors, and people dropping in to just drop plaques and things like that, sell their autographs or their art, whatever. But we have the core of it is a 56-hour live broadcast where while I won't be on camera, I've got an intro, I think, and an outro, and maybe some in-between stuff. But the core of that, we're actually running the control room for. So that means we're up and at 'em for 56 hours. So I'm going to sleep for about 48 hours. And then I'm going to get back to work, even though this isn't over. And between now and the time it is over, we've got content to get. I promised the world daily content. Right now they're getting twice a week because I don't have enough to spread out over this, for every day. So they're getting it twice a week. But we promise daily content to our audience. And so we're going back to wherever we can go, writers' conferences and film festivals and conventions and wherever we can go to find content, because I promise everybody a show a day. And I haven't let them down in 3 years until this year. And so far they've been pretty understanding. They're only getting twice a week. So I'm getting right back to work. But I think I'm going to go to eat with Josh. And I think all of us should just go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, I think we should go out to eat with Josh. I think
Melanie, we should just all go out and just go restaurant hopping.
Yep.
No, we should go out with Josh.
There you go.
He should flip the bill. But Josh should flip the bill for everybody.
Josh has already said he's buying.
Don't worry about it.
I'll head out there.
Megan's got the perfect eateries. I'm already tasting the food. There's so much right now.
People are going to be like the old man that walks up to the buffet and just grabs a soup spoon and just starts crying.
I'm going to walk up to the buffet and cry and be like, I've missed you, my friend.
Hug it.
Every
I don't know if you guys watch that. What is that show? There's like 3 comedians that come on and they do these pranks and
Impractical Joker.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you see the one the other day where he actually his prank was he had to scoot up to the buffet and grab a fork and a spoon and just start eating salad and eating this and inviting other people to come up to the buffet? I think there'll be a lot of that going on.
Oh yeah.
I'm spoiled though. My wife's a chef, so as you can see, I'm not exactly lean as I was a few years ago, but I haven't suffered that much, and I kind of feel sad about that. She had this months of supplies worth of everything. When I went to Walmart, it was because of a stupid printer cartridge I had to go replace. And I walked around and went live from Walmart 2 or 3 days after this thing really sunk in, just to show the pandemonia and the empty shelves, because Walmart literally only stocks really 3 days worth of anything, period.
Yeah.
And that phenomenon really hit. Reason it's dark, I don't have enough lighting. I was in the middle of working on that when all this happened. I wanted to update my webcam. There was not a webcam at Best Buy, Target, Walmart, anything you name. It wasn't there. They were gone. People, of course, are having school at home. They just announced here most kids will probably have to repeat the grade. And I feel bad for the seniors that this was their high time. They were going to state. They were, going to make records. They were going to break records. They were going to do big things. We'll do that next year when you're 19 graduating high school or 20 graduating high school. Now those things are being mentioned, but the pandemonium of it all has been interesting, and how how you guys can jump in on this, how each different place handled social distancing differently. Like I joked and said, cats have mastered social distancing years ago.
We're still working on it in Florida. We're still trying to figure out that we're America and we don't follow laws. We
Yeah.
do whatever we want.
Yeah, I mean, and at least in the in Tampa Bay area, Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, they kind of went safer at home quicker, faster than the rest of the state. I mean, and then like Miami for the most part, but at least it safer at homes happen and everything else. But the rest, everybody, it's funny how it's not even just granular on what the state wants to do; it's what the counties are doing, and even then, it's depending on it within that county, which cities decide to put on a little something harder. So for me, I'm happy that we went safer at home a lot sooner than everybody else, because I'm on that side of stay at home, put your mask on, just don't. That's the one thing I'm going to do. Everyone else can go to a restaurant. I'm just going to sit at home, just touch my face. I am touching my face and rubbing my eyes out in public. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think, and I know this has been different from state to state, and we could probably all file complaints with the way our governors handle things, or our mayors or county managers, et cetera. But I do want to point, I always point this out to people because I think it's important to point out. At the turn of the 20th century, nobody social distanced when Spanish flu came in because it wasn't a thing. And even if it was a thing, we couldn't tell anybody about it because we didn't have a 24-hour news cycle. We didn't have social media. We didn't have anything. You didn't know that the Spanish flu was in your town until 3 or 4 people had died from it. Prior to that, when influenza came to this country, on its own, by just regular old influenza that we all get every year or we get shots for and everything else. They didn't have social media. They didn't have a 24-hour news cycle. They had a newspaper. And like I said, you didn't know anybody had it until you were burying one of your kids. So I want to compliment every single human being that lives in this modern age that turned on their social media feed or their news channel or picked up their newspaper and they went home. And if they bitched about it and they whined about it on the beach and said, I don't have to do that, and then they did it anyway, well, bless you too, because you know what? When this is all over, the ones we lost, we're going to mourn for. And it's tragic every time we lose just one person. But the number of people that are still going to be with us compared to those other times, to the Spanish influenza outbreak, to influenza, to back the plague days, the number of people who are going to be with us at the end of this, because even though you bitched, whined, moaned, and complained, you still did it. You went home and you stayed away from people, or you put a mask on to go out, or you fruitlessly took your baby wipes and wiped down your steering wheel every time you got in the car. Whatever it is that you did, that you knew to do, because we live in miraculous times. We live in a miracle age when we can talk to each other from around the look at all of us talking to each other from around the country, and look at all of you chatting in the chat room from around the world. Terry MacGyver's from Ireland. He's in the chat room right now. So we got all these people that are chatting with us and talking to us and sharing information and stories and entertainment and everything else from around the globe. And the only reason that that so many of us are going to live through this, because remember, the flu right now is not exactly fatal, but it was when it started because we had never seen it before. The Spanish flu doesn't have to be fatal. They fix it in hospitals now, but it was when it came here. This doesn't have to be fatal forever, but it is when it got here. And the lives that were saved because we have this miracle time. Thank you to everybody, every single human being that did the right thing, even while you were whining about it. We saw lots of spring breakers down here in Florida whining, by the way. They were all out at the beach whining together until they all got in their cars and went home.
And mind you, that brought a lot of problems to Florida, and that brought a lot of people getting sick. You brought that back up to your hometown. So you young kids, you learn from this, because this might not be the only pandemic you face in your lifetime. This is considered to be what will be a new trend over the next couple decades. Well, and remember how much you spread something that was vile to your community. Never make this mistake again.
Touch on a couple of quick things. I'm from the South. We do a lot of stupid stuff. Okay. So that'll be my segue into this. Okay.
I like the way
you speak for yourself, Kevin, on this. I'm in the South too.
But that's just by heritage, I guess. We'll just put it that way. Got married in New Orleans, love New Orleans. Louisiana is usually at the bottom of the food chain in most things, education, health reform, all kind of stuff. But I got to say, Louisiana's taken one and risen to the top on this because out of stupidity, because they pushed and made Mardi Gras happen. And now the streets are barren. If you look at shots of Mardi Gras right now, the Bourbon Street that I'm used to not being able to walk on because, of course, there's too many people. There's not a single soul walking Bourbon Street right now because they had to, as they did in Florida and other things, they had to keep the party going. Best thing out there right now is Hollywood got involved, and the Brooks family has a thing that airs on Facebook. Mel Brooks is standing behind a plate glass of his house.
I saw that.
Look, isn't that great? And his son comes over and they have the chit chat, and he said, "Man, if I infect Dad, I'll infect Dick Van Dyke, who will infect this person, and we have wiped out a whole,
Whole generation."
Whole generation. Now, the way we do things differently from where I was raised to here in Colorado, which is a lot more Western. I mean, I've got a couple cowboy hats hanging up on the wall, and I got married in a cowboy hat. A lot of times you'll see me in one. This is how we handle things a little bit differently out here. There's a county, I won't name names, county over from me. It's a seek and destroy. If you break their city lines and you're not from there, they shoot. They don't ask questions. If the cops catch you, there's a $5,000 fine. If you can't produce evidence, license, or something that you're from that town, it's $5,000 fine. They're serious. They want you to stay out, period.
Wow.
So
that just reminds me. But whenever we have in the Tampa Bay area and St. Pete, whenever we have any type of ramen, whenever we have any type of hurricane, there's actually for all the barrier islands out here. If you live out on the beaches, if you live out there, you actually have to already have a permit to get out there. So if it's you try to go out to one of the islands when they're on an evacuation kind of deal, if you don't show your permit, you're being turned right around. It doesn't matter what your license says or everything. You need to have that permit. And there's been times where people kind of almost thought in the back of their head going, if things get worse and worse and worse, they can just bring up the permitting again. That's just a rumory kind of thing. But some people, to your point that county saying, look, we're not messing around up to the county level. I'm blessed for them not messing around, but holy crap, don't take it seriously. That's the key takeaway I'm getting from this is take this seriously. Just stay home. You're being asked to sit on a couch and watch YouTube.
Yep.
It's not that hard. Come on.
A lot of you will be paid. You'll get your money back. You're going to get reimbursed. And let me ask you guys, I know you want to say something, Garrett, but I also want to say, what do you guys think of the news coverage of this? Because we're running a little behind with the artists, so we have a couple of minutes to talk about this. I'm terrified of how inaccurate our news is in America. I'm literally terrified about how much they got wrong constantly about this. Well, so I'm finger crossed and rabbits.
I don't want to go to politics.
If anybody else wants to take a shot, go for it. But I come from a news background, and because of that, I want to. They got a lot wrong. They always get a lot wrong. This is the part that people don't necessarily get. As a journalist, you struggle to be accurate with what you can know right now, and you know more than a lot of people do, but you don't know everything, and you never will because your information comes from a source. Your information comes from if you're reporting on something like this, your information comes from a doctor or a center or a research facility. You don't have all the facts. You have all the facts that you could muster by the time you go to air. So I think it's important that we remember that while they did get a lot wrong this time, they got a lot right too, and they got a lot right more than we could. That's the takeaway here. It's not that they got everything right. They're not infallible. No journalist should be trusted 100% of the time, all the time. Every journalist needs to be questioned. Every journalist needs to be asked for their sourcing. Every journalist needs to provide those things. But they got a lot right too. And they're responsible for pushing us into our houses, even though our government didn't want to.
But do you think
our government, not just, and I'm not picking on any one person. It wasn't just the White House, the Senate, the House. None of our government wanted to push us into our houses. It was the media that was responsible for doing that. Not because they wanted to overly, it's not about fear mongering. It's not about any of that. They had information that no one else had. And they had it because they did their jobs. Now, was it 100% accurate all the time? No, it wasn't. No story will ever be. I remember trying to put 19 inches together based on some guy's 10-inch press release, or trying to sort through a Walt Disney press packet that's this thick to find the one paragraph that's actually important. There's a lot of information coming at journalists a lot of the time. They do the very best they can to give you the most accurate story that they can, and they're still human beings. So they also have opinions. So if you're listening to one news network or another, they like this guy or they don't like this guy, and they're going to get those things, and those are going to affect their judgment, even though it shouldn't. So just a shout out to the journalists who they did get it right more often than they got it wrong. And more importantly, and I don't speak for any of us here other than myself, I know they got it right more often than I did, because I had no idea what was happening until they told me.
Let me ask you, and I actually called this down the road. Sadly, I saw this all coming. And I went on live air, and I even called Florida, having people run down here and getting us sicker. So it's human nature. I saw what was happening in China. I knew this was going to be a big deal, and I warned people about it. And everyone told me I was a fearmonger. Whatever, it happens. But I do think the 24-hour news cycle is hurting us now. I think that if you read the newspapers, you're getting more accurate information. Or the morning, especially early in the morning, they seem to be more accurate because they've had time overnight to get it all together.
They sort it. That's right. When you work in a newsroom with a newspaper, you've got until whatever deadline is, if it's 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., whatever, before that goes to print. You've got all that time to get the most accurate, the quickest information, the best information through the course of the 24-hour cycle. It goes out the next morning. Is it always accurate? No, it's 7 hours old, but it is the most accurate that you're going to get as of midnight last night. Whereas a television news cycle, they have to be always on. So when something new happens, some journalist on TV gets a little note passed to him that says, hey, this just happened, talk about it. And he does his best, but he just got a note that says this just happened. He has no idea what that means or why it means. Right. So what do? And we see it over and over and over again. They bring on a panel of talking heads to talk about what that little note means. And they all guess, and none of them agree, because all of them sit around the table. Well, I think it means this, and I think it means this, and I think it means that. In my newspaper office, I've got all day long to get that note and source it and get 3 other sources. The rule in my newspaper office was, if I got a note in my hand, a fact that came into my hand, I had to verify it with at least 2 independent sources that wasn't the source of the note. So I had 3 sources by the time I went to print. So it was as accurate as I could make it. Now, that being said, if I was in a television network trying to do that before I go on, hey, guys, you're on in 5, that's impossible. So I've got a team of people that are trying to do it. And how many times have you guys seen a news story where in the middle of the news story, oh, wait a minute, we're being interrupted. We're being told, nope, that's the wrong number. This is the new number. Yeah. And it happens all the time because they're working on a flash minute. And you're right, it can hurt if people are looking at that broadcast journalist and saying to themselves, hey, that guy's my source for news. Okay, that's good that you have a source that you trust, but what's important is that you understand that he's not infallible. He'll make mistakes today. He'll try to correct them tomorrow. So don't miss a day. If that's your source for news, don't miss out tomorrow, because when he gets it wrong today, he'll try to make it right tomorrow. The newspaper journalist has the benefit of having 24 hours to work on it. So that's my answer. As a journalist, as a newspaper journalist myself, that's my answer. These guys are doing the best they can. They're under this is a high stress job. And quite frankly, it is, we shouted out the nurses and the doctors and the infrastructure workers and everybody else. Guys, if you work on camera, you're either working from home right now, or you are actually going to the studio with your crew and you're working to get news out there. So they're in a dangerous job. So much so that over at CNN, Chris Cuomo is in his own, he was quarantined in his own basement with Corona.
He has it. He
was teledoctoring with the CNN doctor, actually, as his doctor. So it's very, very hard to get the news exactly right all the time. So I have a great deal of latitude when it comes to journalists. And I also, because of being a journalist, I also know they're not infallible. So like I said, if let's say Chris is your guy to get news from, and you see tonight's broadcast, don't spend the next 24 hours telling everybody what Chris told you tonight. Watch tomorrow night, because he'll correct himself if he was wrong.
Well, Terry just brought up a good point on the feed. And we've done this as a society to them. So we've put this on them. It says that the problem now, it's not about being right. It's about being first. Who's first on the scene? Who's first with the story? Who's first? And we as a society did that to them. It's not on them or their fault. Like you said, a note gets passed, something gets put in front of them. Hey, this just happened. I think myself, when I realized that we were probably too advanced as a society or too close to the news, was 2 major events. One was when Kennedy's plane went down in the water. The boat with CNN with the camera was there watching the water as the boat bobbed to try to find the plane. That's a little quick. or when the wreck with Princess Diana happened, they weren't even out of the car yet.
Yeah.
There's cameras right there live. I mean, that's a little quick, you know. So how quick does quick need to be in these situations sometimes?
I don't think it's not just about that, Kevin, being quick. I think it has to be accurate. And I'm going to say this, and this is just coming from me. There is blame to go all around this world. All around it. Nobody is innocent. From the place where it started to the World Organization that was supposed to have warned us, to every politician who said, no, we shouldn't worry. Yes, we should worry. And there was those lines in the, there were those underlining people who said, you know what, we should probably protect ourselves. And a lot of this, I can only imagine, had we done the right thing as a world, as news organizations, as politicians who are supposed to be protecting us, as the World Organization that's supposed to be looking out for us, as a country who should have seen this coming from miles away in their own place.
Well,
how many lives would have been spared?
Well, here, I want to throw this out at everybody out there, in our panel especially. I want to throw this out to you guys because this is important. I'm a news hound. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 networks that play in the background while we're working during the daytime. I've got my newspapers that come to the house. I'm a news hound. So while I do, there, as Christian pointed out, there's plenty of, quote, blame to go around from all of these different places. There's number one blame to go around, and it lands right here. I'm to blame. You're to blame. Because here's the thing. It was in the news. It was in the news. Mm-hmm. It was reported accurately in the news. Not this year, not in January, not in December of last year. It was in the news 4 years ago that the next big thing coming to America was a pandemic, that the CDC was planning for it. It was in the year 8 years ago. The last 2 White Houses have run scenarios that have made the national news. Nobody was listening. That's on me as the news hound. That's on you as the viewer. We weren't listening because it wasn't sexy. It wasn't, hey, Janet Jackson's top fell off. Hey, this happened. It wasn't sexy, so we weren't listening. But it was in the news. They did report it. They reported it the last 12 years that we have been planning for a pandemic. Over and over and over again. It's always on page 6. It's on page 5 because no one's reading it. No one cares.
I was
in December and January this year, people started to care because people in China were dying. But we didn't care enough to pay attention because those people didn't go from China to here. That's a fallacy, and it's been reported again. It's been reported in the news. People left there well before we were watching. They went back to Europe. They went back to South America. And then the largest strain of COVID that we have right now can be traced directly back to Western Europe. That's what's coming here now from Western Europe. Mm-hmm. That's been reported. It's in the news. Nobody cares. They don't care until it kills grandma.
It's like cancer. It doesn't affect you. If it doesn't affect you,
people just started.
It's happening somewhere else. We don't.
Yeah,
that's right. Nobody cared. I tell people all the time. People say, "Hey, so and so. I saw so and so passed away in the newspaper, and I have this face on my look on my face, and I say, hey, that's very sad." But I'm not crying. I just say it's very sad. It's very sad for my friend that knows that person. However, when they look at me and they say, "Why aren't you more upset?" I say, "Well, you know what? Because 100 kids died in a bus in China today, but I didn't know their names." So I don't mourn. I don't cry. That's the same as everybody else in the world. We didn't know their names. We know their names now. There are celebrities. There are favorite shows. There are grandmothers and our granddaughters and our grandsons and our cousins. Now we care. So yeah, there is a lot of blame to go around. But before you take your finger and point it out there, turn it around. Point it right here. I'm to blame. I'm to blame because I wasn't paying attention because it wasn't boobs.
I don't know. I've been paying attention and using wet ones for a long time now, washing my hands constantly because I knew it was coming. I'm not surprised by this. I was ready for this. That's why I haven't panicked about it.
A couple of quick things. I do 120% agree with you, Christian, about, they do need to be accurate. I think sometimes they jump the gun and they put accuracy aside to be first. That's just the nature of their business. The other thing is too, I lived near Atlanta for several years before I moved to Colorado, not too far down the road from the CDC. And there was ads in the newspaper asking for scientists and research scientists and disease specialists. Okay. And everybody went, it's the CDC. They do it all the time. Not a big deal. No, when you open up the paper when Kobe Bryant died, the article right next to it says, hey, there's cases of this in America. Okay. This was, like you said, way back. This has been coming. Spanish flu. I go back to New Orleans, go visit. There's a couple of graveyards that are very famous. You go into one of the graveyards. Guess what? One whole wall is Spanish flu. No names, just a giant memorial of people in boxes, mausoleums, all down the row from what this has done to us before.
What I'm saying, it's all the blame can go all around, but is the question always comes up: have we learned anything? And even to this moment, at this moment, this day, there are people who are not concerned about what we can do to fix this, what we can do to take care of it, and push that information out there. We're already ready to blame people. The pandemic's still happening. Can we figure it out first? And then after all of this is over, let's go ahead and throw the blame. I don't care. I want to save lives first before we start ruining lives. Right. It makes no sense at this point. We don't learn. And that's a sad part about reality, is just that, we have to be what was the analogy that I always use? There's 3 types of kids in this world as far as people. There's that one kid you can tell, do not put the penny in the outlet, you will get electrocuted. And that will be enough. That kid will go, I won't put the penny in. Then there's that one kid who puts the penny in, gets electrocuted, doesn't do it again. And then you've got that one kid who puts the penny in, gets electrocuted, puts the penny back in, gets electrocuted, puts the penny back in, and dies.
Well, what about the kid who puts the penny in and learns how to control the voltage to have some fun with it? Oh.
He uses it as a voltage tester.
A big lava lamp. What about that kid? That kid.
I turned out to be that kid.
I agree with everybody with what you guys have said. There is plenty of that, and the reality is that we have a priority right now: save lives, keep people healthy. But the truth is, it's all over. If you can learn anything from this, learn to pay attention, and more importantly than that, I'm going to throw this out there for all of you that watch those news stations that are looking. There's no such thing as fake news. Fake news is any news you don't agree with. Yes. But here's the thing. There is no news that you can agree with or can't agree with. Because if you really want to boil it down, don't pay attention to those talking heads. The guy saying, this is good, this is bad, this guy did it, this guy didn't, this guy's this one, this one. Don't blur that out. The following questions need to be answered when you're watching a news story. Who, what, when, where? Don't even bother with the why. Stay away from the why. Why doesn't matter. What happened? Where did it happen? Who was involved? Those are the questions you want the answers to. Stop trying to be entertained by your news broadcasters. Your news broadcasters will entertain you because they will talk about their opinions and they will talk about their friends' opinions and they'll bring everybody on and they'll mash it all out. What happened? Where did it happen? Who was involved? You make up your own mind about the rest. Stop listening to everybody tell you that it's good, that it's bad, that it's ugly. What happened? Coronavirus, COVID-19, started, spread quickly around the globe, and is now on.
Garrett,
yep.
We have our next guest in, and I don't want to.
Good deal, guys.
So what everyone needs to know now is how to follow all of you so we can bring the next guest in. And we're going to start with you, Garrett.
All right. You can follow us at Hanging With Show on Twitter, at Hanging With Web Show on Facebook, www.hwwswebtv.com on the internet, at hwwswebtv on YouTube. Please follow us, join in, and be a part of the conversation. See who we're hanging with.
So you can follow me if you're seeing it online. It says at Pieces of Melee. You can find me at piecesofmelee.com. It's MELEE. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me anywhere to see my artwork. Otherwise, you can also check out the Hanging With Web Show and the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS if you want to hear me talk about Doctor Who.
Christian
left.
This is Kevin from NSC Live TV. You can follow us at nsclivetv.com. You can also catch the Hanging With Web Show there. You can catch Rob's shows there. You can catch a lot of the other Geek Insider shows right there on our network. Again, that's nsclivetv.com.
Put it back on Melanie for Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Sorry, just got to run out of the room for a moment.
And I gotta see. I'm still directing. Anyway, you can follow the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS Facebook page. You'll sometimes see it abbreviated as TLTT. That hashtag, you can usually follow that on Twitter, Facebook, all those kind of fun things. But yes, the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS podcast can be on. It's on iHeart. It's on CBS Radio. You can ask Alexa to listen to us, and then you're going to hear the dulcet tones of Christian's voice and mine and a bunch of other people. So again, Traveling TARDIS.
I thank you all for spending this afternoon with me and entertaining everyone. You guys have done an amazing job. I love the passion of you guys of this panel. There is so much awesomeness. You guys are awesome. We have to bring someone else who's awesome in. You guys are free to hang out. We're going to check out some artwork for the next 17 minutes. Welcome in Artwork by Brenda. How you doing, Brenda?
I'm good. How are y'all?
We're good. We're good. Tell us about your art.
Well, I've been an artist my whole life. I started doing some fan art a few years ago, and I'm actually married to the wonderful Matthew Harris.
Yeah. You know, and that was not how I told you to say it. You're supposed to say, I'm married to the most wonderful man. And just love it. You got it all wrong. I spent all that time writing the script up. But yes, this is my wife, Brenda, and she didn't do fan art until, you know, she gets with the fanboy. And she first did just a couple of drawings for me last year for my birthday. She did me a kick-ass Joker and Two-Face. And then she did that. She drew that. She didn't tattoo it, but she drew that up. And I told her I wanted to get something by her inked up, and so she drew that up for me. I had that inked. When was that, honey? I guess that was last year for the birthday. Year before was when you drew me the other stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
And so that was her first foray into fan art. But here I am taking your interview. Go, honey.
That's okay. I went to art school, didn't finish, just been a natural artist most of my life. And I've got a couple of paintings here. I did some drawings, and I brought some of those with me. Did a Joker. Got a Two-Face with me. It's kind of hard to show the artwork here, but I've done quite a few paintings in my life. I've got a nice.
That's one of my favorites. Now you have to pay attention to what this is, folks. Tell them what you named it, but.
This is David and Goliath. It's Smog versus Baby Yoda. Kind of hard to see.
Yeah, Baby Yoda's hard to see in that one. You can't see his face, but you can see the outline of it. But he's holding up his hand like he ain't got time for this.
But I started off doing pet portraits a few years, about 10 years ago, and I have a tiger here that I did, but most of my other paintings I've either sold or given away. But I've got some on my page, artwork by Brenda. Yeah, that's about it.
She does own a website, but we just I've recently learned the Gutenberg of WordPress, and so maybe we'll be able to do something with that. But honey, when did you learn that you? Or I see Rose in the background. When did you learn that you had a talent for drawing and painting? Hi, Mom.
Well, I. Sorry, got some people in the background. I started drawing at about age 4 or so, and I started doing some. I don't know, just very, very young, and I just began taking it from there, and then junior high school, took it from there, and then after I graduated high school, I went to college, took some drawing classes and clay classes, and then I taught myself. My family, they're all artists, and so I took my cue from them, and my grandmother taught me how to paint a little bit, and I just taught myself mostly.
Do you prefer acrylic or oil, or do you have a specific medium that you like painting in?
Acrylic is my favorite. I'm pretty impatient, so I like it to dry fast.
Mm-hmm.
Oil is a whole beast in itself, but I do enjoy it.
Now, the one that's hanging to your left over there, was that your grandmother's?
No, that's my aunt's.
Your aunt's. And Melanie is an artist as well. I don't know if you can see. Here, let me pull her up real quick.
Back
got her-
down. Hold
She
on.
got her stuff back there. She,
There you go.
Oh, nice.
So there's
I love portraits. Those are beautiful.
portraits. The closet
Yeah.
behind me is all over. You can see all the canvas stacked up, ready to go. And
Yeah, that's how my area is too. I do a lot of portraits. I didn't bring any with me, but I love portrait art too.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to acrylic. I'm just far too impatient.
I am.
I love the fact that with oil you can blend and make the most amazing gradients in the world with it. Acrylic, you got to go a little faster in order to get those gradients going and get it on the canvas. But yeah, I'm that same way. I'm just impatient. Like I don't have 5 years to wait for this piece to dry so I can varnish it.
You can't wait 2 weeks. Exactly. I'm the same way.
and Brenda was supposed to have her first art show, but thanks to COVID, it got canceled. It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be April 3rd, but we didn't get to do that this year, so that's okay.
Was it postponed or just canceled flat out? Maybe you can gain.
It was canceled flat out. So we'll figure something else out.
And then we moved from that town. It was a town that we had lived in for a year and a half, and we had planned on staying there and for quite some time. But then plans changed. We ended up moving unexpectedly to come back home and help take care of Mom. And so we were moved 2.5 hours away, but we'd still, of course, planned on making it to her show. But then she got the dreaded call that COVID had knocked it down. And we were still we were questionable at that point anyway, just because at the beginning of April, it was starting to spread and the news cycle was just starting to hit that, this is kind of getting bad. And we started seeing some of the cons close. And I told her, I was like, she has health issues. And I was like, I don't know about this. And then she was like, I don't know about this. And then they made the decision for us. But
yeah,
we have a much better art scene in this town that we moved into.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's an art center. It's just a whole lot better scene for her talent. Meredith, you woke up.
I
woke up.
I've been in the background. Yeah,
I know.
it's all Matt's fault. No, I am not an artist. Trust me. But I just wanted to pop in and just say hello. Yeah, no, only when I do live streaming. But I just wanted to pop in. I mean, I haven't really taken up pens or ink, anything like that in such a long time. I mean, I was trying to a little bit, and I have a few drawings and stuff. It's not really something that I feel is my creative passion, But I mean, we all started somewhere, and you all said that Brenda, you said you started really young. Mm-hmm. With just coloring in the coloring book, coloring outside of the lines. I mean, where did that come from? And then when did you have time to actually develop this skill to, just either have commissioned works or, just things for gifts and things like that?
Well, it was always my passion. I mean, it just was something that I, as far as a child, I did it in school. I did it every chance I could. I was doodling. If I wasn't, I was a handicapped child. I was born with some congenital birth defects, hip dysplasia. So I wasn't active outside. So I was inside. And I always had a big chief pad in front of me, pencils, pens, paper. It was passion. It just came out of me, and it was fostered by my father and my grandmother, and everyone knew that that's just what I wanted to do. What was Brenda going to do? She was going to be an artist, and so my father would sit down and do still lifes with me at the table. and I was constantly drawing my grandparents, my parents. I would sit and just do that. And then as I got older, I started painting outside. I would take my easel outside and draw the trees and the sky. I would paint, and I don't know. It just as far as time as an adult, it was my hobby. It was my stress reliever. It was just what I did to pass the time. And when I'm creating, everything else is gone. There's nothing else in the world that matters or is there, is present, other than what I'm doing. And so that's been a very positive thing for me. And so about 10 years ago, I couldn't do the same career that I was in. So I began full-time painting pet portraits. And it was Paparazzi Pet Portraits, I think was the name of my company. And that's what I did full-time. And it was word of mouth at first, and then it just kind of, I had an online presence, and then so that's what I did full-time to support myself. So
what about you, Melanie? Because the artwork behind you is, obviously Doctor Who, duh.
Yeah.
Call me Captain Obvious today. But what was that pathway like for you, and has that taken you to maybe roads less traveled, or roads roads unexpected, I should say?
Well, it's very similar kind of story to Brenda's, in that I come from a family where everybody just kind of, you have that line of just people who were artistically gifted. My grandfather was the portrait artist in the family. Actually, he had a couple pieces, but they're over there. I don't think I can get the camera over there. But his biggest thing was charcoals and stuff like that. But he grew up knowing that, that's not a career. He grew up in, I think he was born in 1912. So that was always an outlet. It wasn't a career. But he always fostered, to my mother, who then my mother growing up, in the 40s, 50s, that wasn't a career. That was, just a hobby. So then for me, it was my turn. But it could be a career if I moved into graphics. So throughout elementary school, middle school, and getting into high school, it was, had the paper, had the pen, kind of drawing, but then learning that you could go into graphic design and realizing, wait, I'm combining art with an actual career. And then once I went through from graphics, I kind of leaped that into sales and marketing. And then that you kind of learn more of the analytical side with Excel and all that. So the good thing is my father's side and everyone else was more left brain, and some people were right brain, or vice versa. So I have that kind of joke in my family that I could put on my sister too, where we have a tendency of put on the creative hat or put on the analytical hat, because we both have them, but you have to completely take the other hat off in order to utilize the other one. You can't use them together at the same time. But we went into doing sales and marketing and be able to do and doing all the graphics myself and getting Adobe Creative Suite. I was able to actually go up to my grandfather and show him some of my work and go, look, Pop, I'm an artist. I'm actually being paid as that's my career, an artist. And I think that, honest to God, he had tears in his eyes. He was just so happy to see that a dream that he had and couldn't do, my mom but couldn't do. I was able to find out, well, at least with the technology given today, I'm able to do it. And now I do have that, but it's not exactly what I want. So that's my full-time job, pays the bills. But now the portrait art is what I really want. And now we live in a society where we have Comic Cons and we have all these different avenues to sell art and to, and to be creators. It's time to try to marry the two. And I think, if I have children and I can help, if I pass that little that drawing gene on, there's going to be more opportunities again for that to keep going. And it's so great that so many artists out there are out there and know that, look, we're not flooding the market of, when you get into a convention space or an artist alley, it's not me versus you, and how come you sold your painting and I couldn't. It's everyone goes out there and just shows the world what you have, and everybody gets to be in the sandbox and play, and it's just everybody can dig your art. You no longer have to be vying for for those positions anymore. You can all be out there creating.
Now, I actually did want to continue this conversation because I wanted to pull Rob in because he is, I mean, whether people know it or not, I don't think a lot of people do because he's been doing so much of the live streaming and podcasting and stuff, but he is an artist. You are an artist. But I want to pull the conversation over into the next link, and we're just going to steal a little bit of time from the cosplayers. If you guys are okay, you want to follow us over?
Sure.
Sure.
Good. All right. Awesome. I'm going to drop the link in the private chat here, and I'll see you guys over in the next link. And we're just going to steal a little bit of time because I want to expand on that conversation.
Yeah, and I have a question for Rob too. And folks, if y'all are tuned in right now, just give us a couple of minutes and then re-click, and the show will be back on. We've just got to change links. Brenda, if you look over to the right in the room that you're in, there's a private chat tab. If you just click that, she's posting the link in there, and you can just highlight it and paste it into Google.
Okay.
All right. Who's hitting the end broadcast?
I got it.